Yo, stop. Did you just hear what I heard? Did Tiffany Hayes, a 36-year-old WNBA veteran, a woman who has been in this league since 2012, just walk up to a press conference podium before she even sat down and let the hot mic catch her talking crazy about the most famous basketball player on the planet? Before the interview even started, before somebody asked her a single question, she volunteered that energy. She walked up there like she had something to get off her chest, and the microphone didn't even have to try. That's your opening right there, people. That right there is the entire story in one beautiful, chaotic 13-second clip. And I'm telling you right now, this is only the beginning, because what happened after that? Oh, it got so much worse. Welcome to Street Hoops. I'm your host, Dre Fiver. And today we are burning the whole thing down, because the WNBA, Kathy Engelbert, and the entire league office have got some serious explaining to do. Strap in. Let me paint this full picture for you, because there are layers to the situation that most people are completely glossing over, and I am not going to let that slide. This story doesn't start on social media. It doesn't even start at the post-game podium. It starts on the hardwood on the night of May 22nd, 2026, inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. The Indiana Fever were hosting the Golden State Valkyries. Yes, the expansion franchise, the brand new team that somehow managed to go out there and beat Caitlin Clark and the Fever multiple times in their first season of existence. So the Fever had something to prove in this one. And Caitlin? She came in with a chip on her shoulder the size of the state of Indiana. She had missed the previous game with a back injury. All the narratives were flying online. And she stepped back on that floor ready to remind everybody exactly who she is. And in the third quarter, and I need you to really picture this moment, Clark drained a logo three-pointer while Hayes was guarding her. And as soon as the shot went in, Clark clearly said something to Hayes. The two were essentially chest to chest. That's the spark. That's where the match gets lit, because Caitlin Clark hit a deep ball from the logo, not the three-point line, not the corner, the logo, over Tiffany Hayes, and then had the audacity, the absolute nerve, to turn around and say something. And honestly, good. That's what competitors do. That's what the best players in the world do. Clark finished the game with 22 points and 9 assists in 32 minutes played, leading the Fever to a 9-0, 8-2 victory. She came to work. She delivered. End of discussion. But Tiffany Hayes was not done. Not even close. And before anybody gets in my comments saying I'm biased, let me be very clear about something. I have no problem with on-court competition. I have no problem with trash talk. Two players going at it in a game? That's basketball. That's what makes this sport worth watching. I am not here to tell you that Caitlin Clark is some fragile flower who can't handle the fire. She clearly can. 22 points and 9 dimes on the night says all you need to know. What I'm here to talk about is what happens when the whistle blows and the competition moves from the court to a podium and then to the internet, because that's where things get uncomfortable. As Hayes stepped up to the podium after the game, she was caught on a hot mic criticizing the officials for being too lenient with Clark. They're never going to start calling the fouls on her, Hayes said in comments picked up by a nearby hot mic. Now let's be fair about something here, because I always try to present the full picture. This seems a bit rich considering Clark picked up 5 personal fouls on Friday night. 5 fouls. The woman you are claiming the refs are protecting picked up 5 fouls in the same game you're complaining about the officiating in. 5. I'm just putting that out there. The receipts are public. The box score doesn't lie. But again, and I want to be very clear about this, I'm not here just to talk about the hot mic. The hot mic is a footnote. The hot mic is the appetizer. What came after that on social media? That is the main course, and it is deeply troubling. So after the game ends, after the final buzzer sounds, and the Fever get the W, Tiffany Hayes goes on social media. And this is where I need everybody watching to stay with me, because the sequence of events here is important. Golden State Valkyries guard Tiffany Hayes, also known as Tip Hayes, created a stir on social media by interacting with fans who were trashing the league's most famous player, Caitlin Clark. Hayes even appeared to laugh at one fan's comment that seemed to imply a potential threat toward Clark. Let me say that again. She appeared to endorse, not just ignore, not just accidentally stumble past. She engaged with, she responded to, a comment that implied potential violence directed at another player in this league. Let me walk you through exactly how it went down. Another fan wrote, "Your composure was much better than mine would have been. I'll tell you that." And Hayes responded, "My growth is a gift and a curse, but mostly a gift." Okay, that's fine. That's just a player feeling good about how she handled herself on the court. Nothing alarming about that. Players interact with fans after games all the time. That's normal. But then it escalated, because then came the post that put this entire story into a completely different stratosphere. A fan posted this message for Hayes on Threads. "Listen, I got some cousins we don't speak about that will ride at dawn upon request. Just let me know." And Hayes actually responded to that comment. Now look, I'm going to be balanced here because I have to be. Obviously, Hayes did not directly threaten Clark. The fan didn't explicitly name Clark in the post. That's fair. That's true. I'm not here to say Tiffany Hayes called up somebody to go do something to Caitlin Clark. That's not what this is. But here's the thing that nobody can debate, that nobody can spin, that nobody can walk back. Hayes appeared to condone a fan who vaguely threatened violence against Clark. She engaged with it. She gave it energy. She didn't scroll past it. She didn't ignore it. She didn't say, "Nah, that's too far." She responded. And in 2026, in the world we live in, with the platform these athletes have, with the scrutiny this league is under right now, that is not just foolish. That is a problem. And here's something I want everybody to really think about for a moment. Caitlin Clark has been in this league for 3 years now. 3 years. In that time, she has been physically confronted on the court more times than I can count. She's been the subject of online harassment, fan outrage from opposing fan bases, media pylons, and a whole ecosystem of content that exists just to tear her down. And through all of it, what has Caitlin Clark done? She scored 22 points and had 9 assists on the night this whole thing started. She has never, not once, gone on social media and fired back. She's never encouraged her fans to go do something to another player. She keeps the energy on the floor where it belongs. And you want to tell me she doesn't deserve protection from this league? You want to tell me the WNBA doesn't need to address this? Come on. Fans were not at all happy about Hayes' social media antics. "This is sad, but not surprising," one fan wrote. There's a fine line drawn between jokes about players' skill and criticisms of their play versus this. It doesn't matter if it's a joke. Some things you just do not do in sports, and this is one of them, someone else added. "This is not a good look," another fan said. "Responding like that to a threat is crazy," someone else wrote. "This is a serious calling for violence and should be held accountable," another fan added. And you know what? Those fans are right. Every single one of them. The people in the comments saying it doesn't matter, saying it's just jokes, saying Clark deserves it. Those people are wrong. And the WNBA office needs to hear that message loud and clear. Now is when we get to the part of this story that has me absolutely fired up. Because it's one thing to talk about what Tiffany Hayes did. It's another thing entirely to talk about what the WNBA has said they were going to do about exactly this kind of situation, and then completely failed to do. Because here's something that most of the journalists and YouTube channels covering the story haven't done. They reported on the Hayes posts, they reported on the hot mic, they reported on the fan outrage, but they didn't go back and find the receipts. I went and found the receipts. Back in May of 2025, the Women's National Basketball Association officially launched a platform called No Space for Hate. And I need you to hear exactly what that campaign claimed it stood for, because this is going to hit very different in light of everything we've just discussed. The WNBA described it as a multidimensional platform designed, and I'm quoting their own communications page here, to combat hate and promote respect across all WNBA spaces, from online discourse to arena behavior. Online discourse. Those were their words, not mine. Not some sports bloggers. The official WNBA communications page said the initiative was built to address online discourse and arena behavior. Both. The league said the initiative included enhanced technology features to detect hateful comments online, increased emphasis on team, arena, and league security measures, reinforced mental health resources, and league-wide alignment against hate. They said they had technology in place to detect hateful comments online. They said they had a task force assembled. They said this was a league-wide initiative to better protect players, preserve the spirit of the game, and affirm the values of the league. And their commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, said publicly that they wanted their arenas and social platforms filled with energy and fandom, not hate. So let me ask the question that nobody in the mainstream press is asking with enough force. If you launched a platform specifically designed to detect hateful comments online, how does a post about sending cousins at a player not get flagged? If your enhanced technology is actively monitoring WNBA spaces for this exact type of content, how does a verified WNBA player engage with a post implying violence toward a fellow player, and the league says nothing? Where is the task force? Where is the investigation? Where is the statement? I'll tell you where they are. They are nowhere because they don't want to be found. Because addressing this situation means addressing the reality that there is a specific player in this league who has been the target of a consistent, ongoing pattern of hostility on the floor, online, and in the media, and the league has chosen repeatedly to look the other way when that player is Caitlin Clark. I don't enjoy saying that. I'm not the kind of person who wants to see conflict in a league I want to see succeed, but the evidence is overwhelming and the pattern is clear. When the shoe was on the other foot last year, and there were allegations of racist fan behavior directed at Angel Reese near the court, the WNBA investigated claims of racist fan behavior directed toward Angel Reese near the court, quickly, publicly, with urgency. I applaud that. That's exactly what they should have done. But when it's Caitlin Clark receiving the hostility, the league goes silent. And that silence is deafening. And let me give you the full context on why this conversation is so much bigger than just one game, one hot mic, and one social media thread. The WNBA has benefited enormously from Clark's fame. She drives ratings, sells tickets and jerseys, and creates national conversation. She has brought mainstream attention to a league that spent years begging for people to care. That is a fact. That is not a controversial statement. That is the financial and cultural reality of this league in 2026. But that attention also means players' actions are going to be scrutinized in ways they may not have been before. The WNBA cannot have it both ways. It cannot cash in on the attention Clark brings and then shrug when players appear to encourage or laugh along with reckless commentary involving her. The WNBA wanted the spotlight. Now it has it. Read that again. The WNBA cannot have it both ways. This isn't a fringe opinion from some corner of the internet. This is coming from major sports media, and it is absolutely correct. You cannot market your league on the back of Caitlin Clark's star power. Use her face, use her name, use her audience, benefit from the television ratings she generates, and then go radio silent when a player interacts with a post about putting cousins on her. That is not how accountability works. That is not how leadership works. And it is certainly not how no space for hate works. Now, I want to be fair to Tiffany Hayes for a moment here, because fairness is part of what we do at Street Hoops. Hayes isn't forcing the issue or sending out intense replies that could cause trouble. At best, she might be warned by league officials if it blows up and reaches them. That's one perspective from the analytical side of the coverage, and I understand the argument that she didn't directly threaten anyone, that she wasn't the one who wrote the post. Those are valid points. But here's my response to that, and I want this to land clearly. There is a difference between what is technically provable and what is appropriate. And when you are a professional athlete, a public figure, with a platform and a jersey and a league affiliation, you are held to a standard that goes beyond, well, I didn't technically do anything illegal. You have a responsibility. Especially when the league you play in has a documented policy, a task force, and a stated commitment to protecting players from exactly this kind of online discourse. Outkick reached out to the WNBA to ask whether the league is aware of Hayes' social media activity, whether it plans to review or investigate the posts, and whether its social media policy applies to player interactions with fans in situations like this. The league did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Silence. From the league that told us last year they had technology to detect hateful comments online. Silence. From the organization that said its No Space for Hate platform was designed to protect players from this exact type of situation. Silence. And in that silence, every person who has ever wondered whether that campaign was real, whether those commitments were genuine, whether the league actually has Caitlin Clark's back, they just got their answer. Let me now talk about Stephanie White for a second, because her name came up in this story, and I am not going to pretend it didn't. Fever coach Stephanie White backed Caitlin Clark after she let her emotions out against Tiffany Hayes and the Valkyries, and I respect that. Stephanie White going to bat for her player publicly is exactly what a head coach should do. That's protecting your franchise. That's understanding the assignment. But here's the question that somebody in the media needs to ask, and I mean somebody with a credential and a recorder, not just a Twitter account. Somebody needs to ask Stephanie White directly how she feels about what happened on social media after the game. Because her player just came back from a back injury, went out there and scored 22 points to win the game, and then had to wake up the next morning to screenshots of an opposing player engaging with posts about sending people after her. I want to hear Stephanie White's response to that. I want to hear Kathy Engelbert's response to that. I want those answers on record. Because here's what we know for certain, and I want to be very precise about this. Clark returned from a one-game absence due to a back injury and helped the Fever beat the Valkyries 9-0. 8-2. She finished with 22 points and 9 assists, while Hayes scored 19 points off the bench for Golden State. So on the scoreboard, on the box score, on the court where it matters, Caitlin Clark won. decisively. She came back from injury, she hit a logo 3 in your face, she had 9 dimes, she led her team to a double-digit win. Tiffany Hayes got the L, and then Hayes went to the internet and made it infinitely worse for herself, and the WNBA sat on its hands. Dre's personal opinion. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of a pattern we've seen in this league since the moment Caitlin Clark stepped foot in it. She comes in, she performs at an elite level. She gives the league something it has never had in its existence in terms of mainstream commercial appeal, and in return she gets physicality on the court that doesn't get called, narratives in the press that don't get challenged, and now social media engagement from opposing players that implies violence. And the league does nothing. And every time something like this happens, the people who are supposed to be responsible for protecting every player in that league look away. I've got to be honest with you all. At some point, the silence becomes the answer. At some point, the inaction speaks louder than any press release ever could. And this is exactly why the No Space for Hate campaign matters so much in this specific moment. Because that campaign wasn't just a marketing initiative. It was a public commitment, a promise. The WNBA went on record and said they had a task force, they had technology, they had league-wide alignment against hate, and that it applied to online discourse and in-arena behavior. That policy is still up on the WNBA's official communications page right now. It didn't disappear. The words are still there. And those words, sitting next to what happened in the 72 hours following the May 22nd game, represent the most obvious contradiction the league has put on display in recent memory. You cannot publish a policy and then refuse to enforce it when the situation calls for it. That's not a policy. That's a press release. So where does this leave us? Let's bring it all home, because I want this to be clear, and I want it to be documented. Right now, as of today, Tiffany Hayes has not been suspended. The WNBA has not issued a formal statement about her social media activity. The league has not confirmed whether it has opened an investigation. And the No Space for Hate task force, that was supposedly equipped with technology to detect hateful online content, has apparently detected nothing worth addressing. The league did not immediately respond to a request for comment when major sports media outlets asked directly about this situation. That is the current state of affairs. And here is what I believe needs to happen. I believe the WNBA, in order to maintain any credibility around its No Space for Hate platform, needs to formally acknowledge what happened. I believe Tiffany Hayes should at minimum receive a formal review and be required to address her social media conduct publicly. Whether that rises to the level of suspension is a conversation the league needs to have, but they need to have it openly, not in silence. Because the precedent they set right now matters. If the league investigates fan behavior directed at Angel Reese and stays silent about player behavior directed at Caitlin Clark, they have told every person watching this league exactly where they stand. And the people watching this league, there are a lot more of them than there were 3 years ago, largely because of the woman this situation is about. Dre's personal opinion. I'm going to end my analysis with this, and I mean every word. I want the WNBA to succeed. I genuinely do. I want this league to keep growing, to keep getting bigger contracts, to keep landing the television deals and the sponsorships and the new expansion franchises. I want this to work. But leagues are built on trust. Fans trust that the product they're watching is being managed with integrity. Players trust that the league that takes their likeness and puts it on a jersey will protect them when it matters. And right now, in this moment, the WNBA is failing that trust test. Not because of what Tiffany Hayes posted, that's on her, but because of how the league has responded to it. Accountability starts at the top. And right now, the top is quiet. Somebody needs to say something. And until they do, this story is not going anywhere. The next time these two teams step on the floor together is coming up fast. These two teams play again on May 28th, which is the Fever's next game, and the Valkyries are playing that game at Chase Center in San Francisco. So we are days away from Caitlin Clark walking into the house that the Golden State Valkyries call home, in front of a crowd that is going to be electric, in a game where every single play between Clark and Hayes is going to be under a microscope. The drama is far from over. If anything, it is just getting started, and Street Hoops is going to be right here covering every single moment of it, with no filter, no spin, and no corporate talking points telling us what to say. That is a wrap on today's video, and I need you to do me a favor right now. If this video gave you the receipts, if this video showed you something the mainstream media wasn't showing you, if this helped you understand exactly why this situation is bigger than just a hot mic and a social media thread, smash that like button right now. Do it. That one little tap tells the algorithm this story matters, and it helps us get this information in front of people who need to see it. Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Do you think Tiffany Hayes should be suspended? Do you think the WNBA is going to do anything about this? Or is Kathy Engelbert going to let this one slide? I want to hear from every single one of you. And if you are not yet subscribed to Street Hoops, what are you doing? We are the no-filter zone for basketball drama. We do not pull punches, and we do not take corporate checks to stay quiet. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and I promise you, you will never miss a moment of the real conversation. I'm Dre Fiver, and until next time, we out here.